annual event of the NWACS, the Northwest Arkansas Children's Shelter, and Jim Schenkel is interviewing Steve Schotta, Executive Director of the Children's Shelter.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Steve is an old friend of mine. I guess we've known each other for 5 or 6 years now, maybe even a little bit longer. And he was originally came down here with Kimberly Clark, but he's now changed careers into the nonprofit world with the Children's Shelter. So I'm going to let Steve introduce himself.
Thanks, Jim. I really have the privilege to serve our community as the executive director of the shelter. We just celebrated our 20th anniversary, and celebrate's a little misleading word because we're in existence because there's kids that come into foster care that through no fault of their own due to abuse and neglect need a safe place to stay. And so as an emergency shelter, we provide that. We're open 24/7. We're taking care of kids around the clock, and we provide them with all their basic needs. We've served 7,200 children in Arkansas in the last 20 years, about 560 last year alone. And that's what this event tonight's all about. It's our biggest fundraiser because at the end of the day, even though all the kids are placed by the state of Arkansas, they cap us with a budget, so they account for about 25% of our operating budget, so we're raising an awful lot of money.
Steve, when I first came up here with Gwen, my wife, we got on the Board of Champions for Kids and came out to the Children's Shelter in the old facilities, and it was obviously, y'all were growing. There was a lot of need there, much bigger than what you guys could support. From that time, y'all been able to develop much better facilities, obviously through big supporters as you have tonight. Talk a little bit about the development of the new facility and what you've got out there.
Sure. Yes, the old facility we had actually bought from an old Sunshine School. And so for 17 years, we kind of held it together with baling wire and chewing gum. We approached the Donald W. Reynolds Foundation about 8 years ago, and it took quite a while, but they awarded us a grant of $13.5 million, and we built a brand new facility that's truly state-of-the-art, 60,000 square feet of an emergency shelter, a full recreation center on site, and a warehouse that we use for donated goods. So we increased our capacity for kids by 50%. We're serving, we have 48 beds, and we serve kids from birth through teens. So it's quite a wide age range, and we're just an integral part of the community, and frankly couldn't do it if we didn't get support from people. At the end of the day, that's where we're getting most of our funding.
It's the unfortunate thing is that there is such a need. But if y'all had additional resource, what are some of the additional things you would do, either programming-wise or facilities?
We have a long-range plan. We're actually on 80 acres, Jim. So if we could expand, we certainly would. We actually have a building, in the way it was designed, we could expand to 72 beds if we built a separate schoolhouse and administrative building. And that's another thing that makes us unique. We actually have our own school on site. It's a satellite of the Bentonville Public School System. It's on site, and we have our teachers, our staff of the shelter, they're state certified, but we're able to serve kids right on site. If you can imagine being taken out of your home in the middle of the night due to abuse or neglect, coming to a brand new strange facility and then being put on a school bus, we alleviate that. The kids go to school right there.
It tugs at your heart. I mean, one of the things that we've seen time and again when talking with people who get involved in the Children's Shelter is the passion that they've got for it. I mean, it doesn't sound like y'all have to do a lot of recruiting to be able to get people to come and volunteer. And so tell us a little bit about your volunteer programs.
Yeah, volunteers are a very important part of our program. We have about 200 people that serve to volunteer with us. Some are in the school, some might rock babies, some might mentor a team. And some might just say, we can help with landscaping, or we can help support some events, do some deep cleaning. And so we do get a lot of support. And that's why we call ourselves really a community facility.
We can tell by looking at the size of this room and the number of people here. How many chairs are out here, and people obviously will show up for tonight?
We're going to have over 1,000 people. I think about 1,100 tonight. We've got a great group. Thompson Square, an up-and-coming, strong country duo. They're a married couple. And, you know, one of the things that they're just great people. We actually brought the kids from the shelter out here today. Nobody knew it. The kids didn't know where they were going. They sat through their warm-ups, and then the band had them come up and take personal pictures one by one, and they signed them.
And I understand that you have one of your alumni who's going to be speaking. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, Megan actually was with us 13 years ago and she was 15. And she's going to talk tonight about how the shelter truly made a difference in her life. She was able to find out through the shelter and how she was treated by adults, how she should have been treated her whole life. And she's going to talk about how it was really enlightening for her. And she's really a success story. She went on to become in the National Guard, and she works for Walmart today. And she's got a successful career, and she's going to talk about how the shelter helped her achieve that.
Well, we look forward to hearing more of those kind of stories, Steve, because the shelter is full of them. How about you guys? Do you have in the control room? Do y'all have something to ask Steve?
You know, Steve, it's just kind of heart-wrenching to know how great the need is, and it's so good to know that you guys are there to help out in some way. But on a lighter note, I know you guys have a silent auction going on. Is there anything in particular that you have your eye on?
Well, I was feeling kind of adventurous tonight, and there is a polo lessons. Now, this is horse polo for $3, and it's on the auction, and I've got my eye on that. My son is a horseback rider. I might venture into it with him, but that was kind of a fun deal. And there is a lot of sports memorabilia, actual jerseys that are submitted by different teams. So I'm watching those.
Very good. Well, I'm surprised Steve is still vertical after this week. You guys did something big on Tuesday night, didn't you?
We've had a lot of activities this week and events, and you know, Jim, it seems like we got something going all the time. But in matter of fact, our annual golf tournament's in 3 weeks. So we have another fundraiser. But that's what we do. We try to help kids.